Yeah, so good evening, everyone. I, Shani Kumar, welcome you all to third session of Statistics for Professional. I hope I'm audible to everyone. So we will begin with probability distribution today, and I hope that up till last class everything is clear. If anybody have some doubt or queries, can ask me now. Okay, so let's begin now. So today we are going to talk about probability distribution. So first, let's understand what distribution means. When we talk about distribution, we have to understand that what is the data we are having. For example, if I'm just going to pull out a data. So this is basically S&P 500 return for last 1 year. This is the latest data from Yahoo Finance, where we have date of the the S&P 500 and the opening price. This is the highest which it touched during the day, and it's the lowest price. And then finally the closing, this adjusted close, and this is volume. So when we talk about return, so how we will calculate the return in terms of daily return. When we talk about that, what is the daily return we are getting on this stock, so we can calculate it in this way. For example, if I want to calculate daily return for this S&P 500, let's make a column for RN return, and let's calculate here the daily return for this particular stock. And for this we will consider the adjusted close. Close is basically taken into the consideration all the splits which share has undergone in past, or maybe some bonus share issued, so that all has been adjusted in this. So now look at the daily return. So the date is starting from 8 February 2019, then 11, 12. This is up to 8 February 2020. The prices for S&P 500 is. Let's calculate the daily return. So daily return will be today's return, that is the latest return, that is 11th, minus 8 divided by the last price. So this will be, so this is the return for, so let's do it in percentage. Yeah, so this is the return for, if I would have invested this in S&P 500 on 8th February 2019, and when the next day market opens, that is on 11th February 2019, my return would be, because the share price has gone up for this day, so the return is 0.74%. It's a daily return. So in the same way, we are just going to calculate the return for entire year. So this is basically uh, the return data which I have in front of me. So this return, yeah, so this return is basically, we have to understand what kind of distribution it has. For example, we normally in statistic want or uh, assume that most of the data are normally distributed. We will understand what is normal distribution in some moment, but in general term, we always consider that most of the data are normally distributed. That is how the returns of particular stock here in terms of a stock is distributed. Is it, uh, for example, if I'm just going to put it on,
Mama.
yeah, so basically, so I was talking about distribution. So when, if we have to plot a graph, so this is x-axis. On this, there will be values on x-axis, and on y-axis there will be frequencies. That how many numbers of times basically the values appear. So if suppose in terms of, if I'm talking about in terms of the stock price and its return, so returns are basically said to be normally distributed. That very minimum return in terms of maybe negative return or positive return, very high negative or very high positive returns. If suppose this is minus 10% return in a week, and this is plus 10% return in a week. So very high and very low returns are very less frequent, but average return, so say on this particular stock the average return is say 2%. So this 2% will have the highest frequency, and these are basically very small, you know, frequency of very high or very low. The distribution will look something like this. So average return will or return somewhere near to average is the highest, and at the both ends it will be tapers. So this kind of uh, distribution is known as normal distribution. There are other distribution also, like if say if I roll a dice, so value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these 6 values are outcome. So any one of that can turn up, right? So the probability of one coming on the top is say 1/6, right? The same is for probability for 2 of turning up. So they have equal probability. So their distribution is something like uniform distribution. So all have equal probability. So this is a uniform distribution. So in this way, we are just going to study different kind of distribution. The first distribution which we are going to cover, is, okay, first let's understand what is uh, probability mass function, probability density function, and cumulative distribution function. So when talking about probability mass function, it is always applicable in terms of discrete case where we have discrete variable. For example, when we talk about, you know, outcome when we roll a dice, so it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we already understand that what is discrete variable. So whenever the outcome can be counted in numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 as a whole number, so in that case we always consider mass function, probability of mass function. Whereas when the case is continuous, or when variable is continuous, we consider probability density function. And cumulative function is, so just consider this particular example. In this, if you consider any of this number, the chances of coming up any of these number out of 6. So if I say I want what is the probability of 3 coming up, so it's simply 1/6. So these kind of probability functions are known as discrete probability function, where if I say the return on the particular stock or share, so in that case return can be anything in decimals, right? Infinite decimals. So these kind of, in this case you cannot say that what is the, 6%, what is the probability that 6% return is there, because maybe there in lot of data. So here is basically, you can see in this data I have, so many numbers, okay, returns. Some are negative, some are positive, but there is no whole number. So we cannot simply say that what is the probability that there is return we are going to get is 6%. So we always consider it that to a certain range. So we can say that what is the probability we will get a return between 6% and 7%. So in this kind of distribution density function, what we consider is about range. So this is the range. So in probability distribution, we always consider a particular range of area that falls under this curve. In this case, it is normal distribution. And whereas in continuous, it's the sum up. So if I say that what is the probability that I will be getting return between -10, which is the minimum return possible, and the average, say 2%. So what is the probability that we are going to get uh, a return between -10 to 2%. So this whole thing will be covered. The whole of this area will fall under this. So from this end up till the point for which I am looking for the return. So this is called accumulating, just adding up all the possible. So in this case, you can say that any return less than 2%, this is cumulative, and any probability between 6% and 7%. So any return that is greater than 6% and less than 7%. So what is the probability your return will be under this bracket? So you have to cover this particular range. So this is what probability distribution is, and simultaneously I just explained you what continuous probability function or cumulative probability function. So I hope it is clear to all of you. If there's any confusion, you can ask me. I can just repeat it for you. Well, so let's move ahead then. Let's move to binomial distribution and Poisson distribution. So when we talk about discrete, so we understood that probability mass function is applicable to discrete variables. So when we talk about discrete variable, there are basically two kinds of most prominent distribution. One is binomial distribution. We always talk in terms of discrete variable. Another is Poisson distribution. We talk in terms of discrete variable. So let's understand what these two distributions are before moving on to the normal distribution. So these are the characteristics of binomial distribution. So binomial distribution consists of sequence of n trials. For example, if I am going to toss the coin, so for number of time, so there are number of trials. Say I just tossed a coin for 10 times, and possible outcome can be either tail or head. So if I say that I want head on the top, so that defines my success. So head in this case will be success, and whereas if tails comes up, it will be a failure. So only two exclusive outcome are possible in each trial under binomial distribution. One outcome is called success, another is failure. The probability of success is denoted by P and does not change for trial to trial. The probability of failure is 1 minus P and fixed from trial. So basically, whenever we toss a coin, the probability of coming up head is 0.5, that is 1 by 2, and probability of coming off tail is 0.5. So in this case, we can see that the probability will not change. The probability of a success will not change. In the same way, talk about rolling a dice, there are 6 possible outcome. Okay, if I say that if one will turn up, that will be the success. So our probability of success will be 1 by 6, and probability of failure will be 1 minus 1 by 6, that is equal to 5 by 6. I hope I'm making sense. So now we are going to roll dice any number of time. What will come up will be the outcome, and if it's turned out to be 1 on the top, it will be defined as success, and rest all 5 numbers are the failure. So I'm just trying to define you what the success and failure in terms of binomial distribution means. And the last condition is that every trial is independent. So when I toss the first coin and I come up with head, when I tossed the coin for the second time, anything can come up. So basically the earlier outcome doesn't affect the next outcome. So all the experiments are independent of each other. So I'm just going to repeat once again what is binomial distribution and what are the characteristics. So to understand in a case of binomial distribution, these these 4 conditions should be fulfilled. First thing, there should be a sequence of trial. So if I say I toss a coin 1 times, that is not binomial distribution. There should be sequence 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. And then after that, the outcome can be defined in only two possible way. One is success, another is failure. And then finally, the probability of success will remain same in all the trials, and each trials are independent of each other. So now let's move to the next slide, and that is the formula. So here probability of x, we will do a question after that that will make you more clear. I'm just explaining you this formula. So this particular n exponential divided by n minus x exponential. This is basically the formula of combination which we are applying over here, and this is probability of success raised to power x. X is the variable which we are going to uh, for which we are calculating the probability, and this q is the failure, probability of failure, that is 1 minus probability of success, and then raised to power n minus x. So this is the formula. Let's see one question based on that. So here is a quality control problem. A manufacturer is making a product with 20% defect rate. If we select 5 randomly chosen items at the end of assembly line, what is the probability of having one defective item in a sample? So here we have to understand what is the success, what is the failure, what is the number of trials, and what is the probability of success. So let's understand this one by one. So if we see here, we are going to select 5 items from a production line. So there are 5 trials, right? So n is equal to 5. And then what we are looking for, we are looking for one defective item, or basically the defective item. So getting a defective item will be defined as success in this question, right? And the probability that any product will be defective is 20%. So the probability of success will be 20%, right? So now we have the number of trials, we have the probability of success, we can calculate probability of failure, that is 1 minus 20%, or 1 minus 0.20, that is 0.80. And then finally we need that in those 5, one will be defective. What is the probability that only one will be defective? So the x will be 1. So after applying those formula, so let's see. So here is n exponential divided by n minus x exponential. So basically if we are going to put this, the combination, and then multiply it with 0.2, that is success ratio, raised to power x, x is 1, and then multiplied with 1 minus 0.2 raised to power 5 minus 1, that is 4. So we are going to come up with 0.49 or 41%, that the probability is 41% that the one item out of those 5 randomly selected will be defective. So is it clear to everyone? Any confusion till here? Okay, so let's move ahead then. Now we are going to talk about Poisson distribution. So in this, let's directly go to characteristic and then understand what is Poisson distribution. So here again, the outcome will be discrete in number, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, whereas in binomial it was success or failure was the outcome. The number of occurrence in each interval can range from 0 to infinite. So it's like if I say that in a particular shop, in 15 minutes, on average, 10 customers come in, right? So the time interval we are talking about is 15 minutes, and the expected number of customer is 15. So here the outcome can be anything. That the question can be that in 15 minutes, what is the probability that two customers will turn up, right? So here the interval will can be in time, distance, or any other thing, but it should always be in terms which can be divided into intervals, like 1 kilometer or 1 hour, something like that. We always talk in terms of intervals. And then there's an expected number of occurrence. So in this interval, as I told that in 15 minutes, the expected number of customer to come in the shop is 10. And this data will come up from the past data, right? So we would be having some past data, and from that we come up with some model that okay, on average 10 customers comes into the shop in every 15 minutes. So the formulas stands like this. So here lambda raised to pi x. So lambda or this mu is both its mean. Okay, so what is the average number of people coming into the shop? So lambda raised to pi x exponential raised to minus lambda, and then finally divided by x exponential. So to understand this better, let's look into a question. So just go through this question one. There's a cashier in Walmart and it's 4:30 p.m. and your shift end at 5. The store policy is to close your checkout line 15 minutes before your shifts end. So you can finish checking out the customers already in your line and leave on time. So by examining overhead camera, store data indicate that between 4:30 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. each weekday, on average 10 customers enter in any given checkout line. So basically they are asking what is the probability that exactly 7 customer will enter your line between 4:30 and 4:45. And then the second question goes as what is the probability that more than 10 per people arrive? So let's see and understand what is the variable or parameter we need over here. So we need lambda, that is in particular interval, what is the expected number of customers that are going to come. So here 10 customers are going to come on every 15 minutes. So lambda or mean will be 10, right? We are not going to divide it by 10 by 15. Just that how many customers are coming in per interval. So here interval stands for 15 minutes. Okay, so this is one interval. So 10 customers are coming in one interval. So basically it is 10 customer, that will be the lambda. And what we need is the probability that exactly 7 customer will come. So the x will be 7. So just putting the values and calculating, lambda is what, 10. We are expecting that 7 customers, we are calculating the probability for 7 customer coming in 15 minutes, and value for e stand for 2.17 raised to minus lambda and then x exponential. So this basically we are going to come up with 0.9 or 9% probability that in next 15 minutes 7 customer will come. So is there any problem in understanding this concept of Poisson distribution and the binomial distribution, because these two are very important in practical life also. That's why I normally bring out here the practical problems. Okay, not basically these most of the time we deal with tossing coins and then rolling the dice. So I just move forward from that and bring to you some real life questions so that you can better understand that how these are applicable in real life. Is it clear to everyone?
Sorry, instructor, can you repeat on poison on real life applications? Poison
Okay.
poison, yeah.
Okay. So see, poison distribution we use when we have a certain interval of time or distance. So basically, if talking about, and so we have already covered the time one. Let's say in terms of distance. So if you're on a highway, what is the probability then in in every 1 kilometer there will be say 10 public utilities available on that 1 kilometer, you know, of that distance. So whenever we talk about interval and the occurrence of something in that particular interval, so that falls under Poisson distribution. So again, talking about the same, the question, we can ask the question over here. The question is saying that there is a cashier who is working in Walmart and he need to leave at 5 p.m. Okay, and it take to settle his all balance and made all the connection and his balance of all day transaction takes 15 minutes. So he have to close his window 15 minutes before 5 p.m. So basically this now it is 4:30 and he have to close at 4:45 because remaining 15 minutes he has to spend time in checking the balances. So from the data, past data, we have that in 15 minutes between 4:30 to 4:45, on average, 10 customers comes in the checking line. Okay, so basically we are just asking that what is the probability that 7 customers will come. So on average, we know that in every 15 minutes there are 10 customers. Okay, so now we are just looking for the probability that 7 customer will come, or maybe we can also calculate the probability that what is the probability that 12 customers will come. Okay, so to calculate this there is simple formula, that is lambda raised to power x. So lambda in this case will be how many occurrence. So occurrence here is what? The number of customers coming in per interval time. So one interval is 15 minutes. So lambda will be 10. So just putting these values in formula. So lambda is 10. X, we are looking for probability of 7 customers coming into the checking line. And then E, we know the value 2.17. And again, minus lambda divided by x exponential. So basically, after solving this, what we are going to get is 9%. So the probability of you know seventh customer coming into this checking line in next 15 minutes is 9%.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's move ahead now. So there's a bonus question which I put. So if you want to look at it, have a look. So here it's asking that let's say your manager decide to be nice and you get to close your register at 4:40 instead of 4:45. So how many customers do you expect to arrive between 4:30 to 4:40? So here the interval is 15 minutes. What we need to do, we reduce this interval to 10 minutes. So so uh, in simple way we can say that we can apply ration proportion over here to get 6.6 customer coming in 10 minutes, right? And now we can use, so this will be 10 minute will be a new interval, and then lambda will be 6.67 where for 10-minute interval. So now if we have to calculate, say, what is the probability that 5 customers will come in next 10 minutes, so we can use the same formula where we'll put 6.67 as n, lambda, and x will be say 5 because we are expecting 5 customers to come into the checking line. So I hope this is clear to you. So there's a comparison between binomial distribution and Poisson distribution. So in binomial distribution, as we have already learned, that there's only two possible outcomes, success and failure, whereas in Poisson distribution can be unlimited number of outcome, right? So if you want 7, 10, in our example, if you want to look for probability of 7 customers coming into the checking line last 15 minutes, or maybe you want to check 100 customers coming into the line in next 15 minutes, so you can check for any possible number of outcome. And the probability of repeated number of trials as studied, so basically in this there are probability of repetition. Uh, there's trials which keeps on repeating, and we have to study the probability of repeated number of trials, whereas in this the count of independent event occur randomly with a given period of time. So here, of course, one customer coming on after another is an independent event, but that particular event has to occur in a particular interval of time. So that's what we, so here they have example that typo error in a large book. So if we say that in every 5 pages there are 3 typo errors, so what is the probability that in next 5 pages there will be 7 typo errors? So these kind of questions will be covered under Poisson distribution. So for mean value, n multiplied by p will be the mean, and variance will be n multiplied by pq. So these are basically the formula to calculate mean and variance of binomial distribution, whereas Poisson distribution, mean is lambda and variance will be also the lambda. So mean and variance will be same in Poisson distribution. And in this constant, so the probability of success cannot change in one and after another trial. In every trial the probability of success should remain same, and here there's, you know, the probability of success is like it has no bound, you can take it to any place, you know. So you cannot say that there's only fixed success probability. Probability keep on changing. Say if you want to look for 7, then probability will be different. You want to look for 10 people coming into the checking line, the probability will be different. So for each value you will get different probability. Let's move towards normal distribution. I hope that it is clear between what is binomial and Poisson distribution. Okay, so talking about normal distribution, this is the most important concept in statistics, because whenever we have to make any model, so that data most probably should be in normal distribution. Why, we will come to know it very soon. So any distribution that looks something like this, that is a bell shaped, so this is called normal distribution, where there is one mode. And if you see, this is exactly symmetrical. If I just going to cut this from the between, the left and right will be very much similar. The parameter for this kind of distribution will be the mu, that is mean, and the standard deviation. We will look what is the importance of mean and standard deviation in normal distribution. So these are the properties. The mean, mode, and median all are equal. So it will fall exactly over here. If mean, median, and mode would be at different places, then it would be either right skewed data or left skewed data. But if mean, mode, median, and mode will exactly be in the between or in the center, so this will be the property of normal distribution. The curve is symmetric at center. Exactly half of the values are left of the center, and exactly half of the values are right to this center. So we have, because median is in the center, it means that 50% of the value will fall on the right and 50% will fall on the left. And the total area under the curve is 1. So 1 in terms of probability, we know that the whole area will consist of 1, or 100% of data will be covered under this particular curve. So this is what normal distribution will look like. For example, if I have height of random sample of 100 men, so it will look something like that. As the number of men are keep on increasing, so as 1000 is going to look more closer to normal distribution. If I increase the number of observation to 1 lakh, it will be more smoother. And if I'm going to calculate the height, or not calculate, record the height for whole population, then this distribution will look exactly same as normal distribution. So what does a normal distribution means? For example, if I say that government launches some program, say there is a medical uh, insurance program, you know, floated by the government, and government decided that any person having annual income less than 50,000 will be eligible to get the insurance for, you say, $500,000. So in that case, this is the data, or this is the curve showing, suppose this is the curve showing the entire population earnings. Okay, so say here the average population, say in India, average salary of the people in India, say they are earning around 10 lakh annually. So this over here, it will be 10 lakh in place of this mu. Okay, and standard deviation. So we have already understand, now we already understand what is standard deviation. So standard deviation of the salary in India is say 2 lakh. So people moving towards left, that is from average, that is 10 lakh is the average salary in India, and moving towards left, one standard deviation, that is 10 minus 2, that is 8, and moving towards right from this standard deviation, from this average, that is 10 plus 2, 12. If I ask that what is the or what is the percentage of people in India earning a salary between 8 and 12, so this will be 31, 34.1 plus 34.1, that is 68.2% of the people are earning salary between 8 lakh to 12 lakh. So what does it mean? That average and moving one standard deviation towards the left and moving one standard deviation towards the right, this whole area will cover 68.2% of the data, right? Of 68.2% of the people's salary will be covered in this area. Or in other words, we can say that 68.2% of the people are earning between 8 to 12 lakh of salary. Now moving more left, from average moving towards 2 standard deviation left. So 2 standard deviation will be 2 multiplied by 2, because 1 standard deviation is 2 in our case. So when we move to 10 minus 4, that is 6 lakh, and towards this side 14 lakh. So if the whole of this area will be covering around 98% of the population. So this area will be covering the people who are earning between 6 and 14 lakh of salary. So this 98% of the population will be earning between this. So if government wants that anybody earning less than 2 lakh annually, so it will be somewhere very here, okay, at the very bottom. So we can understand that okay, people who are earning less than 2 lakh, suppose this 2 lakh will fall after 3 standard deviation. So in the total population of India, only 0.01% of people will be earning less than 2 lakh annually. So those people will be entitled to get the insurance, medical insurance. So government, it helped the government to understand that what percentage of people will be falling under. So we know that 0.01. So in India, I'd say that 1.3 crores of people who are 130 crores of people are actually population of India. So 0.01% of that will be earning less than 2 lakh. So people have, or government have to put aside the fund in such a way that they have to cater that number of people. So suppose if this was a normal distribution, then what would the problem? So say if the distribution would be something like this. So we don't exactly know that. If I suppose, if I say that okay, here I just put that okay, 2 lakh is here, but we are not able to understand that what portion of this area will be, whether it will 0.1% of the population is being covered under this, or 0.8%. We are not able to understand this because this is not a normal distribution over here. In a statistic, we have this empirical value only for normal distribution. So whenever data will be normally distributed, we will be able to get the values easily, as against when data is not normally distributed. So even if we say that data is skewed, something like this, that more of the people fall on the lower side. So very large number of people are falling under this particular area. So again, government will be having difficulty in estimating that exactly what percentage of people are falling under, say, 2 lakh. So this will be a difficult. So basically, in a statistic, we always consider that data are normally distributed. So let's see an example over here. So here,
So,
yeah,
instructor, yeah, on determining the percentage that a certain number of people covering maybe 68% or 98%,
yeah.
can you make that calculation on Excel even when you can't construct a binomial?
You want me to show that calculation in Excel? We'll do that in Excel in few minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So here is a question that uh, see, we know that Mercedes and BMWs have two different kind of customers. Basically, BMWs initially used to focus most on youngster, whereas Mercedes used to have the target the customers who belongs to a kind of mature people like business people or maybe politicians. So these kind of people are the target for Mercedes, whereas for BMW, youngsters are the target. But later, Mercedes, when bought this BMW, they want to know that uh, actually Mercedes over here also want to get into the youngster, and they want youngster to buy their cars. So they want to see that what is the price their cars are being sold at. So basically what happens, that car comes at particular price, and then when it finally reaches the dealer, every dealer sells at different price the same car. Okay, so from the survey, the BMW got that okay, on average the average price of BMW is $41,900, and average price for Mercedes is $42,900, and a standard deviation is $2,367. For BMW and for Mercedes, it's $2,891. And these are assumed to be normally distributed. The dealer price follows a normal distribution. So these are the questions which we want to look into. First, what proportion of BMW dealer price the Roadster at less than $38,349? So the average price over here is 41,900. Standard deviation is 2,367. We want to know that what is the percentage of cars that is being sold below 38,349. In a similar way, there are other questions. If you want to read it quickly. All are similar question. If you have any problem in understanding any one of them, let me know. I will explain you. Okay, so let's see the first question first. So this is what the distribution is going to look like. So, so we know that the average price is 41,900 and a standard deviation was 2,367. And now we need to calculate. So this is the normal distribution, and somewhere in between we are going to have the mean price, that is 41,900, and towards left lies 38,349. So we want to know that what is the percentage of car that is below 38,349, right? We want to look that for that. So here, so we can apply this formula, which is very complex, of course. They involves the calculation as well. We need to put the limits for minus infinity to 38,349. So this is going to be quite complex. So other way which normally the statistician use is calculation of Z score. Let's understand first what this Z score stands for. Though we don't need to calculate this even, because nowadays we have sophisticated tools like Python or maybe even Excel. In Excel also we don't need to calculate Z score. It gives us the values directly after having the parameter, that is mean and standard deviation. These two are the parameter for any normal distribution. So how to calculate Z score? And first let's understand what is Z score. So this is somewhat normally distributed car price. Here is the mean, that is 41,900, and here I want to look for 38,349. So standard deviation was 2,367. So standard deviation we know 2,367. So say somewhere here will be the first standard deviation towards left, and here the standard deviation at the right. So if we move towards right and left, let's calculate it to just make you better understand. So for the first standard deviation value will be 41900, subtracting 2367. So the first standard deviation will be somewhere here, which will be 3533. So this is the first standard deviation towards left, and moving towards right, the first standard deviation will be 44, somewhere here, 44 to 67. Okay, and in the similar way we can move towards two standard deviation right and two standard deviation left. So now the problem is that this is only for the BMW. If we have to draw another, then it is for Mercedes. In the same way, we have to understand that what is the mean, what is the standard deviation. So instead of keeping and calculating the value through this formula, what happens in Z score, then is we make a standard, we give standard value under this Z score. What we do is that we consider that mean is zero. It's just kind of a ruler which you use to measure something. Okay, so this mean will become zero, and this standard deviation will become 1 and minus 1. Okay, so we are replacing this mean as 0 and this standard deviation as 1 and minus 1. So what will happen that it will help us to standardize this value. So now what we can do, either it is average for BMW, or either on another table, say there is average for the Mercedes. All this can be converted to same standard value of 0, and then the standard deviation of minus 1 and minus 2. So what will be the benefit of doing that is that we will having the standardized score from this raw score, and from this standardized score, using the table we will be easily able to calculate the probability. So how we will calculate the Z score, that is the question. So now we need the value X, we know the value of mean, that is mu, we know the value of standard deviation. So in our example, our mean is 41,900, that is mu, and standard deviation is 2367, and now we are calculating the probability for 38,349. So in this case the x will be, in this case the x will be 38,349, mu will be 41,900, and a standard deviation will be 2,367. So with help of that we can calculate the Z score. So here we can calculate the Z score as, so x is, and then divided by standard deviation is 2367. So when we will solve this, we are going to get the value. So we are going to get the value of minus 1.50. So they have calculated in the same manner. So x is 38,349 minus 41,900 divided by 230,2367, that is minus 150. So this is the Z score, minus 150. So the question is asking that what is the probability, or what is the percentage of card being sold below 38,349. So anything that will come under this particular dark side will be the probability, or an area falling under this particular curve up till this point will be the probability or percentage of cars selling below this 38,349. So how we will calculate it? So we need to see the value of Z score in the table. So just looking at the table, so you know that minus 1.50. So here is the table. So this is an incomplete table. So here we can see that there is already minus. So we need to look into minus 1.5. So somewhere here there would be minus 1.5, and it is 0 after that. 1.5 and then 0. So here somewhere will be 1.5 and here it is 0. So we have to, so whatever value will fall somewhere here, that will be the this value 0.0668. So basically 6.68% of BMW are being sold below this particular price. So we can calculate the same value from Excel. So let's try that using the same example. So in this case the mean is 41,900, right? And then standard deviation is given as 2367, and X is given as 38,349. Okay, so here I hope you understand what is mean, what is standard deviation, and what is X we are looking for. So we have to see that what is the percentage of car being sold below 38,349 given certain condition. What are the condition? First condition, that data is distributed normally. Second, the parameter of this normally distributed data is mean is 41,900, and the second parameter, that is standard deviation, is 2367. So from these two parameters, we have to calculate the percentage of card being sold below this particular price. So we need to use norm that dist function, norm dot dist function will give us. So let's calculate this. So x is the price which we are looking for, and then they're asking for mean, and then standard deviation, and then cumulative, as we are looking for the data between this and this point from the lowest to this particular, that is 38,349. So this is going to be cumulative. So if we are talking about probability mass function, we know what is the probability mass function. If it would be kind of discrete variable and we are looking for only one value probability, then we would have used probability mass function, but here we have to use cumulative distribution function. So cumulative distribution function is true, and then we are getting 0.6678. That's the value we are also getting over here. So I hope you are clear that how to calculate this particular thing and what is this normal distribution and what are the parameters of this normal distribution. So to sum it up at one place, if we have to, why we use normal distribution. So whenever we talk about population, so say population of, uh, just take this example only, that in US, all the stores or all the dealer stores, there are say 10,000 of stores in all US selling BMW. Okay, so getting to each and every dealer and recording their price is a very difficult thing and will be very expensive. So what company will do, they will pick up 40-50 dealers and record price at which they are selling this BMW. Okay, so that will be the sample of 40 dealers, not all 10,000 dealers. So these 40 dealers sample price we have. So now from this sample, we will derive what? The parameter, that is the mean and the standard deviation. And this mean and standard deviation will be then used to see or the to estimate the nature of entire population. So from this sample, we will try to understand that what is the overall, all the dealers, among all the dealer, what is the probability that or what is the percentage of dealer are selling below 38,349. So we always take this as parameters because we are not going to calculate the the observation for entire dealer, because that will be very lengthy and expensive. So if that wouldn't be normal distribution, or if we won't suppose that it is a normal distribution, we won't be able to apply z score, and then we won't be able to calculate the percentage or estimate what is the number or what is the percentage of dealers selling below that particular price. So I hope I make you clear that how normal distribution is important and how we use it in a actual life. So is there any confusion till here? Okay, so we will end it over here, and if any problem is there, we can discuss it in the next class, which will be tomorrow at the same time. So for today, yeah, we will share the video shortly. Once the course will end, we will share the video links with you. Uh, that's not an issue. Okay, then thank you for today, and we'll meet tomorrow again at the same time. If any query you
Thank
can
you.
ask. Yeah. Okay.